Hello, everyone, and welcome to Workshop 3 of Storytelling Through Spoken Word. We're now going to turn our sights to the practical side of storytelling by confronting what many people feel: the fear of speaking in public. What is the first thing you think when you hear the phrase public speaking or performance? What is the worst experience you have ever had while public speaking? It's important to understand where our fears come from. That awareness helps us understand our relationship with the stage and with the audience. When speaking in front of an audience, take some time to understand your why and your what. The first question you should ask yourself as a storyteller is, why is the subject important to you? It's almost impossible to fool our audiences into thinking we care about something when we don't really care about it. Unless, of course, we're acting. And even then, we have to be really, really fantastic actors. So why are you passionate about this particular subject? Of course, when it's a personal story, it's really important or really easy to be able to care about it because, as we said a little earlier, our stories are often made up of our experiences. But as a storyteller, the first question, why is this subject important to you? Because if it's important to you, it will be important to your audience. The second question, why should the audience care about what you have to say? And I think if we go back again to Tom Corson Knowles, he helps us to answer this question a little bit of why audiences should care about what we have to say. Because if you think about stories helping us to build community, helping us to understand our places in the world, but also our place in relation to others, we may be able to transmit this through the stories that we tell. So think about why your audience should care about what you have to say. And if maybe it doesn't seem that there's much to care about, think about how you can enhance or rewrite or rework your story to something that your audience will be invested in. And that's the important connection that we need to make, especially as storytellers, is find a way to connect your experience to that of others. Find a way to make, while still unique and very clearly rooted within its context, but how do you make your story a little bit more universal so that the audience can plug in and care about what you have to say as well? The next question, what do you want the audience to get out of your storytelling? This is a very simple question. Is there a particular lesson that you perhaps want them to learn from your experience or the experiences of the characters within your story or what your poem is trying to say? What do you want them to think about that changes their thinking? If they have one perspective of the world in this particular community, is there something that you want them to be challenged by in order that it changes both how they think and hopefully even how they act? And finally, what do you want to learn from your experience? There are two levels to this question. Firstly, when it comes to the nerves or the anxiety that happens when we're on stage, stage fright really, we may want to use this experience of storytelling as a way of building our confidence, building our rapport with an audience, and really improving our skills. So that's certainly something you would want to learn, and to take the opportunities for sharing your poetry, take the opportunities for storytelling as often as you can in order to build up your experiences. But on the other level is, what do you want to learn by articulating your place in the world? If we go back again to workshop 1, where we were speaking about why stories matter, is that it helps us to understand our place in the world. It helps us to shape and articulate that place. So is there something about telling your story that helps you solidify and understand your place in the world? Take time to discuss these questions with your group, as they will help them to develop their own process and motivations for being storytellers. The real test of sharing your story is in front of an audience. Audiences are often not as scary as we make them out to be, unless we're being judged. The first step of dealing with an audience is preparation. Thorough preparation puts you in the best possible position, and it is the area which you can control fully, as the outcome itself may be unpredictable. Here are some questions which you may have in dealing with an audience. Audiences can truly, truly be terrifying. So it's important to take a little bit of time and understand your own position and understand your own fears, and to determine whether there are ways to overcome them. So as we go through these questions, I want you to share your responses with your group And you'll be surprised at how many of those fears we share and how many may not actually matter as much as we think. So here we go. Question one: am I projecting my own fears on the audience? Because that's really possible. Sometimes we believe audiences see things that they really can't. Question two: what are those fears? Take time to speak about those in your groups and see which overlap and which may hinder your performances. And then confront those fears and work to get over them. And of course, the best way to get over them is to practice as much as possible, be prepared as much as you can, and take opportunities to share your story. While we are in performance mode, these are some of the things that run through our heads as well. Where you feel, I'm losing their attention, what can I do to get it back? Brainstorm with your group on some of the different techniques that you use to try and bring an audience back into your story when it feels as if you're losing them. Of course, there are times when our own lack of focus does mean that we lose a little bit of that connection. But what are some of the tricks and the hints and the tips that you can use, that you can share with your group to try and bring an audience back into the world of your story? But also, they are not responding the way I want them to. Should I be panicking? What do you think? If audiences are not responding the way we want them to, should we panic? And if we are panicking, what does that panic look like? But if not, how can we bring ourselves back into the moment and connect with the audience? It is natural to assess your audience as you speak in order to respond to the non-verbal cues which they give you. How does audience feedback affect you as you go along? But it's imperative that you stay out of your head. Overthinking can cause you to lose focus and you may lose your audience completely. Remember that the content is what is important. Stay focused. Now watch the following clip and discuss ideas on how to hold the attention of an audience.
Mid-September, when apricot blossoms preen like bantu knots along atrophied branches, flexing against the last trace of a frost-smeared August, or the coccyx end of February, summer spine cradling grape-engorged vines, striving for the reprieve of harvest. Or maybe the paradox of May, with its autumn oranges playing hide-and-seek Eden between leaves and security guard thorns without falling. Which is a better season for dying? eMzansi Afrika, a deciduous landscape. Every 8 hours the earth tilts away from the sun, and another woman is picked to death. We are not equipped to cultivate this land of bodies and memories. Sweetie! Oh, sure, come on, baby. Khancume kaloku ndithetha nawe lawe. Ngobubi bengakufuni kakade. We pilgrims who gather on this mountaintop to pull up a seat at the devil's table know that hovering cloud is no tablecloth or what the Khoi called white karos. It is Cape Town's petticoat, veiling the shape and line of this land's shame. And when the southeasterly lifts the hem to air the bodies, their screams are translated into the stench of the sea and quiet, dissolved into the long throat of the N2 and traditions of silence. But we know this mountain by another name from all the times we have died or almost died. Under its watch, its wake, its shadow. But what a view! See all the street corners and street lights and parking lots. Whole communities are cemetery plots. Another toddler found buried in her backyard. Massacred, this land is nothing but a graveyard. This is a tombstone, not a rock. Kuba kaloku umlomo wendoda lingcwaba elingahluthiyo. Awunwabi ungakhange ubhodle amathambo am. Bufazi bam ide yangumnqamlezo wam. Kodwa nangolwesithathu usuku awundityekezi nokundityekeza. Uthando ngumthendeleko wamanqindi nezithuko. Kodwa luphi olwam uvuko. In our miniskirts and our burkas, we sit on the mountaintop drafting obituaries, smiling to prevent falling into open graves, learning to breathe underground. But we are taught not to ask why our men are undertakers, carrying spades between their legs, fists full of dust, why they are already dressed for funerals.
Here are some questions which you can use to analyze the previous video. They give you language to speak about performance, but also think about how you can apply them to your own storytelling. Further, in workshop 4, we're going to break all of these elements down further in thinking about the most basic features or most basic elements of stage and performance. Question 1. How did the performer use their voice to tell the story? Question 2. How did they use their body to tell the story? Question 3. How did they use movement to tell the story? And question 4. How did they use the space to tell the story? All of these questions will help frame your thinking through this performance, but also help frame your own performances, your own storytelling. Finally, before we wrap up the workshop, here are a few breathing exercises, a few articulation exercises, and a few tone exercises, which will help you to enhance your performance as a storyteller. Here are some simple breathing and articulation exercises which the group can do during the session and at home to warm up and help them calm down. The first is a breathing exercise. Now stand with your feet a comfortable shoulder width apart. Support the weight of your body through your hips and legs rather than locking your knees. Consciously release and relax your shoulders. If you're holding your stomach in, let it go. Now, place your hands on your stomach. When you're breathing well, your hands will rise on an in-breath and fall on an out-breath. Breathe in through your nose to the count of 4. Count slowly. As you inhale, feel your diaphragm and see your hands rising. Breathe out through your mouth to the count of 4, and now feel your diaphragm expanding and see your hands lowering. Do several rounds of the inhale and exhale to a 4 count while making sure you keep your shoulders, stomach, and legs relaxed. Once you have mastered the 4 count, increase it. Through regular practice, you will soon be able to extend it to an 8 or even 10 count. Articulation. The first one is red leather, yellow leather. Red leather, yellow leather. Red lorry, yellow lorry. Red lorry, yellow lorry. Now pronounce this as quickly as you can. Another popular form of articulation. You know, New York. You need, New York. You know, you need, unique, New York. You know, New York. You need, New York. You know, you need, unique, New York. Now have fun pronouncing these as quickly as you can. And finally, tone. To practice conveying the meaning you intend in your words, try experimenting by saying your opening sentences of your poems as if you were happy, bored, sad, angry, bitter, teasing, and cynical. Here's a practical exercise which you can explore in your group, which will help you to have more interesting and creative approaches to your work, but also to think very deeply about how we make meaning and then how our audiences receive what we have to say. So this is really about communication and clarity. Using your memory poem, which you wrote in workshop 1 and 2, explore its meaning by playing with different tones in your performance. As I've just shared, tones like angry, happy, sad, and certainly more interesting and more nuanced ones. So you can decide as the group which ones you want to work with. Now discuss with the group how they experience the different approaches and what the pros and cons of each style of performance were. Have fun with this exercise, and again, you can return to it as many times as possible. In workshop 4, we'll be focusing on the 4 main elements of stage and performance that will improve your work as a storyteller.